Hello, everybody, and welcome to another one-on-one from the Roundtable series. Today, it's a pleasure and honor to host the founder and chief coffeeholic of Vava Coffee and co-founder of Gente del Futuro, Vava Angwenyi. So, hello, Vava.
Hi, Yannis.
It's really nice to have you.
Thanks for having me, Yannis. Pleasure.
So, you're locked down in Kenya, I guess.
Yes.
I would like to hear from your perspective how this pandemic has been affecting producing countries, your business, and what are your views in general about the challenges in the green coffee business?
Well, as I would say a small, medium-sized enterprise, for us, I would say the initial reaction to this was, of course, we had to encounter sort of like the knee-jerk reactions from some of our buyers in folks either reducing the volumes that they were purchasing, some wanting to see if they can get out of a contract. And so I would say that when COVID started unraveling, these were like the first sort of effects before like the curfews were put in place and the lockdown happened and some of our work situation and operations getting affected. And so of course that led to lots of discussions with buyers, and of course any potential new clients we were anticipating this year, that's very far-fetched right now because nobody's trying to get into like a new contract right now. And and then over time, with the government putting in place certain curfews and movement restrictions, operations have been affected, not being able to access the office for close to 2 months now, until I would say Sunday was the first day I was able to access our location because we had special permission to access it. And also looking at our key stakeholders, some of our producers who are now harvesting, like in parts of Mount Kenya region, in Meru right now, whose harvest is being affected. And of course, cost of production going up for some of these producers. So these are some of the initial reactions to this. But I would say over the last couple of weeks, as folks maybe in some of our buyers out there in the consuming countries have either gotten, be it government support, or they've slowly started to see how things may be settling, are now sort of warming up to revisiting, be it those contracts or the volumes that they initially wanted to get out of, to see how we can forge, I would say, stronger partnerships moving forward.
So based on all this, have we seen disruptions on the supply chains? Like, do we have a free flow of goods? Do we see like that the buyers and the sellers are willing to sign contracts, taking commitments, both in terms of pricing and delivery dates? Like, what is the experience until today?
I'll start with the clearer one that I know is there's delays at the port for sure. KPA, Kenya Ports Authority, is understaffed for sure. There's massive delays with shipments in the last couple of weeks, and all of this started because one of the major towns in Kenya, Mombasa, has had quite a few COVID cases recently. So the government has taken further steps to limit movement and to limit crowds, be it at KPA. So we know that shipping agents are asking us to give instructions much earlier to ensure that at least things keep moving. So of course, things are slow on the logistics side. We've had delays even at borders where if you're moving or consolidating containers cross-border, we've had huge delays at the Namanga border with some shipments that we were receiving. And also, of course, interesting cases, or like not such interesting cases of, some of the truck drivers being, facing certain abuse at the border, especially if you're a Kenyan truck driver trying to cross over to Tanzania, just cases where also cross-border relations, definitely there's need for improvement there. And then when it comes to if people are willing to commit or sign new contracts, there's definitely, I've sensed, I'm talking from personal experience, just hesitation to commit to larger volumes at the moment. Everyone's sort of on a wait and see type of scenario. FOB prices, I would say, seem out of reach right now for a lot of people. And we've had discussions with folks who've asked us to calm down on pricing because of the current scenario. And, you know, if someone was in a contract where they had, anticipated taking a container, it's dropping close to like just 100 bags. And if you have a good relationship with that client, they're asking you to calm down on price somehow. And as a business owner, you look at, risk analysis. Do you say no and then sit on the coffee for like, a year, 6 months or whatever? Or do you meet your clients halfway? So for me, it's been an interesting scenario where we really have to find ways of meeting each other halfway so that at the end of the day, my business doesn't collapse under this. Producers also are not caught in between, these scenarios. And the final client also gets their coffee and we sort of keep things moving.
And a very stupid question. Who finances all this? Like, that's the interesting part, because we're talking about delays, prices. Who at the end of the day has to finance all this? Is it like you, the farmer? Like, do you get support from your customers, from the government? Like, how is financing?
Well, Yannis, that's definitely not a stupid question, because it's like, it really depends on how your enterprise is structured and what size of enterprise you are and who's backing you. Like, who are your investors? And I would say a lot of us, especially I would say small companies like us that have direct relationships with producers, I'm definitely not wanting any of this to fall onto producers. And the laws and regulations that dictate how we trade in Kenya are also protecting producers not to be impacted where it comes to contracts, contract defaults and all of that. So at the end of the day, it's businesses like ours that bear the brunt for all of this. Either I look for smart ways to finance my business, I look for, talk to my investors, get more backing in terms of, more working capital to enable us actually hold these kinds of levels of stock at the moment. So it's you as a company that has to find a smart way to do this, because I can tell you even the buyer at the end of the day, either they either decide to default on the contract, but then of course there's ways to go around that kind of a default, or if you have an amicable relationship with your client, you both find a smart way of going about it. Either you ask them to pay certain percentage upfront or 100% upfront, so that you're able to at least cover yourself as they reduce the volumes. But I would tell you, it's a matter of everyone sort of thinking on their feet and looking for that lifeline in terms of extra working capital to give you the sort of breathing space or the buffer. But I think we're all avoiding a scenario where producers have to be the ones that are bearing majority of the brunt. But I can tell you, I think we're awaiting maybe slightly more complicated situations with harvests that may be entering the market. I don't know.
So do you think that specialty coffees might have to be sold on prices of commodity of coffees because there is no demand out there? Like, have you seen a drop of demand in specialty coffees and an increase of demand in commodities coffees? Because we have been talking about that with other panelists, and I would like to hear your view on this one.
I think where we're at, and with discussions I've also had with some buyers, is the industry has to redefine what specialty is. Will we be gauging coffees and saying that they're specialty purely because of a score, or, especially now when folks are going to be sitting on coffees that maybe in storage for 6 months, some of us, or I don't know, but I think there's a real push here to redefine what specialty is, in order maybe to salvage or save whatever aftermath that the impact COVID would have had to this market, purely because very few roasters, especially the roasters that actually care about producers, will be able to afford these coffees, given everyone's taking a hit. And even looking at the Asian market, and with folks already there's complaining about pricing, and you look at other markets like Australia, where folks readily would pay for good coffees, but there's a real struggle that I see with buyers or roasters being able to justify, even in their budgets, why they're spending a certain amount on coffees. So you see a push for good commercial coffees right now. And we've had some very candid discussions around what will specialty mean after this. And even with my, and even with some of my colleagues in other parts of the world who are just say, for example, we end up sitting on some coffees for 6 months without shipping these coffees, and maybe we get investors to support that kind of stockpile. Will folks refuse to buy coffees that were scoring 87, 88 because they are old, or I don't know? And I don't know, it's just, what were you going to say?
Specialty graded coffees, not to redefine what specialty coffee is. It's specialty graded coffees, just to make that clear. But yeah. I hear you, and I would say it's not the specialty graded coffees. I would say in general the coffees that it was more expensive to produce than the coffees. I think this is a fair way of understanding coffees that are more expensive to produce versus the coffees that are more commercial, and what is the differentiation there. And this is something that has come up again and again in conversation. Changing a bit the subject here, you're running a B Corp. How challenging is it to run a B Corp during a crisis like this?
It's tough, because there's so many things to consider in how many people you're responsible for, and we are a B Corp that got Best of the World Community last year. So meaning right now the question is around, okay, what are we doing for the community? How do we keep things running in this tough moment, and how do we remain positive, but also not just we're not just firefighting internally as a company, but also supporting the community. And this is the time when all of us have very limited resources and very limited bandwidth, even because considering what everyone is going through, there's the internal panic of, oh my God, even, within your family, how are we going to move forward? And then there's saving jobs, saving your business, because investors still want to see you pull through past this. And then there's the community, there's the larger community who you're responsible for. So I would say it's a burden on your shoulder, but I can say one thing I'm grateful for being a B Corp is that there's a support system that we've created locally as B Corps. And also the wider B Corp community has also been very, very supportive in providing resources for us to navigate and to understand situations better. And for lack of a better way to put it, it's just, there's forums now which sort of act as therapy sessions for B Corp CEOs, just, so that you feel like you're not alone. And in all honesty, some sessions also, because I remember sitting in a session that was very interesting a couple of weeks ago, organized by B-Lab East Africa, the guy that was giving the session had ran a B Corp as well during when Kenya had the post-election violence a couple of years ago, and they survived, and revenues picked up. They just, and they were working in like the most volatile parts of Kenya at the moment, the informal settlements. So to get that kind of reassurance from someone who's been through some nasty situations, and to get some resources right now to help you better understand the scenario. I know this is a pandemic, and none of us really know what's happening or when we get out of it. But to actually share with fellow, be it CEOs or founders, and to help understand how you can navigate a situation like this, especially when you're a community sort of based company where your biggest suppliers are those producers, and people look up to you as a company. I don't know. It's good to have B Corp as a community, is what I can say right now, because they sort of help you navigate the day-to-day madness.
So that helps you on both. I heard a company side, but also on a personal side, because you were saying it was like a group therapy for CEOs. So let me ask you a bit more of a personal question. How is Vava doing through all that, trying to manage as a leader through that to her community, employees, partners? So how have you been coping with that?
It's been tough. At first I was in denial. Like, I was one of those people, like, it was what we were seeing on TV. I was just like, okay, is this thing really serious? Maybe they're going to announce a vaccine like tomorrow. This is a prank. And then, of course, the reality starts setting in, and then it starts hitting closer to home. So, and then when reality checks in, you can either do one of two things. You either panic and lose it and then just lose control of your business and everything, or slowly take it in, but do it a day at a time and start looking for good support systems. So I chose, in as much as it's been tough, and as a leader, you're the face of the company, people are looking up to you. I was like, okay, where's the opportunity in all of this? Like, there's gotta be some positives, and maybe this is the right moment that we reinvent ourselves and do all of those other things, maybe on the farm that we've wanted to do. But there's like some real opportunities that are coming out of this, in as much as there's doom and gloom in other aspects, but I'm also trying to look at the opportunities that lie in this situation. Of course, mental health, a crucial thing that maybe we don't often talk about, but it is important that as a leader and as someone who is navigating several scenarios, to take care of yourself first. So for me, exercise is key. Even if like we're all locked indoors, it's a matter of, can I put aside a couple of hours in the day to meditate, to exercise, to punch, an airbag, even if I don't have my usual punching bag. It's more like, and also who are those people that I can reach out to for like a constructive conversation, and folks who are not just gonna make you panic. Because there's a lot of stuff on the news, so it's about also limiting what you're taking in. But also keeping in mind to be up to speed with all the new changes, because every other day there's like a new regulation, be it at the bank, be it with movement restrictions, so you don't want to get caught on the wrong side of the law. And also listening to what your people need, be it the staff, be it the producers, and to be strong enough to listen. You may not have the solutions, but also just listen and try and find solutions. There may not be all the solutions out there, but to just remain positive, I would say, is key.
And I think that is key, how you frame it. You spoke earlier about opportunities. So, and I guess that you have been reflecting on this one. So do you see any opportunities coming out of this crisis? Have you experimented on anything that it's succeeding or failing, or have you identified opportunities?
Yes, even in the darkest of situations where I've had people try and cancel contracts, I have gone back, calmed down, learned how to deal with clients from different geographies, because I was just like, okay, the way someone from a different country that is experiencing the lockdown in a different scenario panics is different from how someone else in the US or in another country is going to panic. And I think with all my clients, we've had some very vulnerable moments where we now all start sharing. Previously, maybe it was just a transaction on paper where it says boom, boom, and you're out of there. But now there's been that opportunity to get to know each other. People are appreciating relationships more. And I can tell you that the folks that buy our coffee are more interested in learning and knowing how they can be of use, even if they're not buying that coffee now. It's just checking in and seeing how can we cross-collaborate to keep things going and to also inform the consumers who in this lockdown maybe are going online to order coffee. So I've seen, I would see great opportunities to collaborate with folks out there. And that's why I think there's a real opportunity here to strengthen the supply chain. If we stop just thinking about ourselves and saying, okay, my business, all my shops are shut down for the next couple of months, but it's about, okay, we're shut down. However, where do we get the coffee from and how can we strengthen the ties, even if you don't have a purchase contract to offer that person right now? I think we all have a bit of time right now to listen to each other and to really reflect on how we run our businesses. Back home here, like I would say, as an entrepreneur, there's been the opportunity to get into food production. We are on a 21-acre farm, which I've never been more inspired to plant food and to scale the business in a different direction. And I'm like, okay, we did recently set up a coffee lab, which as we've had our discussions in the past, we were supposed to have the actual opening ceremony in May as a certified lab. And I'm like, okay, now with social distancing and everything, that's not happening. However, how can I keep my team motivated so that they don't feel like, because depression easily sets in when there's like all of this stuff happening. So we started an organic food project with the team. So other than just doing coffee, we're growing food, not just for food security for the local community, but aside from having the coffee lab, how can we train the local community in sustaining themselves with just regular food that they all need to consume, be it maize, be it kale, be it carrots, and using that, looking a couple of months ahead, it could be a real place for inspiration for not just the local community, but people that just want to now get out of the city and experience something new. So for me, when people ask me, moving forward or planning ahead, I'm just like, guys, I'm not even trying to plan ahead right now. I'm trying to like live a day at a time, but I'm like, looking ahead, this is what I'd like to offer folks that come over to the office, to the lab, is aside from the coffee experience, there's the farm to table experience, and we're a holistic business, because at the end of the day, I am a business person. I'm an entrepreneur who has bills to pay, and it actually gives me the opportunity to keep staff retained rather than letting people go. You keep them engaged in another activity that is very fulfilling. Planting a tree, a flower, food is extremely fulfilling. If you have the opportunity, I guess now is the time to do it. So reinventing, I would say, ourselves in new revenue streams, looking at how technology can better assist us in our supply chain and how we actually communicate with producers, because right now we're not able to navigate to the farms like we used to. So how are we keeping the communication lines open with producers? We do have producers that are asking us for loans right now. We are not a lending company, but we've now used that opportunity to reach out to investors to see what kind of, I would say, financing opportunities can we tap into for producers' sake, because this is inevitably going to impact them much longer and much harder than some of us. So those are some of the things that we're looking at right now to sort of keep hope alive and to, keep us afloat.
Thank you for saying that. I think it's important to recognize that, and it's really compelling to hear that the community is coming together and that you're finding ways of how to get your people into more engaged with the company and keeping them working, because I think that's the most important thing at the end of the day. So I would like to thank you for your time today. It has been an honor and a pleasure to have you in this series, and stay healthy and stay strong.
Thanks, Yannis, and always a pleasure. Speak soon.
Thank you so much.